Hello, everyone. I am Cynthia Trejo, and I am with Her Element Network. Her Element is a platform for women to inspire, empower, and support women personally and professionally to realize their full potential. And I'm here with Latika Vines. Hello, Latika.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be having a conversation regarding in moments like this, things that we're dealing with today, this crisis that we're in with COVID-19 and the pandemic and everything. But first, I want to introduce Latika properly. Latika is the founder and visionary is a founder of Visionary Initiatives LLC, a career development and coaching organization helping working moms transform their career visions into an initiative through work and life balance. Whether you are creating your own work and life balance through operating your own business or mastering it in your corporate job, Latika coaches and teaches working moms how to prioritize themselves to get to the next level in their career. Her belief is that working moms should not just survive, but they should navigate and thrive in their life and career as boss moms. In addition to coaching and teaching, Latika is a podcast host of her own self titled show. She is also the author of The Career You Want, and also the book, I Fear Not Because God Said So. She's also the founder of Boss Mom Society, a career development program for working moms. And she resides in Maryland with her 4 children and her loving husband.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. I wanted to ask you about this before we get started, this book that you have here, I Fear Not Because God Said So. Tell
Yes.
me a little bit about that.
You know, to be honest, this prayer journal was something that the devil did not want me to write.
Mm,
I had set to have it finished and published by April 2019. I did not publish that until June of 2019. And it was because I was going through the fear of writing down what it was that God wanted me to do, which was to do this prayer journal. And as a career development person, I'm really big in like Myers Briggs indicators and other personality tests. And so, with this particular prayer journal, before you get into the actual prayers, the 31 days of prayers and journaling what God is, telling you, you actually have to write down what it is that you are afraid of, what you are fearful of. And what I recognized is that there was a lot that I was afraid of, a lot that I was afraid of, just, stepping out on my own and owning my own business, being able to say that I am an author of a book that God anointed, that God wrote. There were just so many things that I was afraid of. And all of those fears played into writing the book. And it just was so powerful to um, have something for anyone, for any woman who is dealing with fear in any aspect of their life. But I wrote it thinking of myself. What is going to help me with my fears? What is going to help me as a mom taking care of these 4 kids? What's going to help me as a wife in the midst of a 14-year relationship with my husband, and we're still getting to know each other, so I wrote it looking at the scriptures that God had given me to go through periods of my life. And it came out, God anointed it last summer, to be exact, June of last year. And I'm just so excited about the book and how it just changes the lives of women who read it and understand that, God didn't give us the spirit of fear, First Timothy tells us he gave us the spirit of love and of power, and that's his love and his power. So even though, you know, we may have these situations in our lives that cause us to be anxious, to be worried, God tells us you don't have to. And so the prayer journal really digs into how you can let go of that fear, really defeat that fear, and do what it is that God has called you to do. Whether it's, you know, in your marriage, being at home with the kids, in your career, in your business, whatever it is, God is saying, I got your back. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. I got you. So the book is just, it's an incredible, incredible journey for women who are really thinking twice about the things that God has for them to do.
Very interesting. Well, you know, that actually leads to the subject of what we're speaking on today, right? You know, and it's, you know, it's titled In Moments of Like This, but it's really pertaining to what we're going through today. In the midst of this pandemic that we're living in, the uncertainty, the fear, the sickness, even the death, right? That most people are experiencing that are going through this, their family members, and life as we know it, right? Even what 6-7 months ago
Yes.
has changed. It's changed drastically for everyone, and we're mourning what was. You know, it's no longer, our lives are no longer the same. And so when we're looking at these things in our life, how do we continue to live in a life of hope? How do we continue to walk in that life of hope through these moments?
You know, that is such an interesting question. And what came to mind last night was Joshua 1:9. And I lied to you not. This morning I was watching CNN, and one of the individuals that they were interviewing, it was a nurse that actually lives here in Maryland. And behind him was a canvas print, excuse me, of Joshua 1:9. And I was just like, okay, God, okay. But Joshua 1:9 says, from the New King James Version, have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So even though we are in this storm that we're in, dealing with the pandemic of COVID and just injustice going around in the world, and everything else, you know, that is not making the news. It is these words in Joshua 1:9 that tells us that God is with us, you know, and we have to believe that God is with us. He tells us in his word, he promises us, don't be afraid, because wherever you go, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, God is with you. His presence is there with you. And so it is us believing that he is there. You know, God didn't have these men pen his words just for them to be words. They are scriptures for us to believe in, ways of life for us to follow, to walk in. And he tells us right here, wherever you go, I'm here, I'm with you. And I always love to say, God tells me all the time, I got your back, I got you. So there shouldn't be a need. I know we are human, so the flesh comes first, but there shouldn't be a worry or anxiousness when God promises that he will be with us. But it's us believing that he is with us, because as we know, the Bible says when we think it, we believe it. It's in our hearts. So it's so important that we believe that he is with us wherever we go and whatever situation is present with us.
Right, right. So we were having a conversation about this earlier, as far as what people are experiencing,
Mhm.
and some of what's going on, is of course not being able to be around others,
Yes.
right? We talked about that fellowship with others. We talked about not going to church, not even though we know the community is the church, the people are the church, but being able to physically go to church and be around community. That also has been part of what people are going through in the despair or in the uncertainty. um, what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. Someone had posted earlier this week that it's been 17 weeks since we've been in church. 17 weeks is incredible. Like, who would have ever thought that you would be forced not to go to church?
Right.
So it is different. And, for me, I'm an extrovert. So I thrive off of people. I thrive off of the energy of people. So for me, not being at church, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't hug anybody. I can't touch anybody. I can't high five anybody. I can't say amen when the pastor, is like, can I get an amen? But it's what I truly understand, what I know is that, again, the presence of God is what we're missing in the church, along with the fellowship. But when we can fellowship with God, he fills that void. He fills that void. And so I have been encouraging friends and family to fellowship with God as much as you possibly can. Um, for me, that is, going on a run and, listening to my worship music, or listening to a sermon, from someone else. I am fellowshipping with God, and he fills that void that I'm missing from other people. Um, but it, I get it. We're not in the church. We can't touch anybody. And as humans, that's what we do. We interact with people,
Right.
by touching. Um, so it's a burden. It's a burden not being able to be in the church building, but it's so important to know that when we fellowship with God, he can fill that void um, that we're missing.
Right. And we can also, and even though we're not able to physically be there with others, we can make a call, right? We can do what we're doing today, do it through Zoom. Uh, we talked about maybe even doing a prayer tree or a prayer partner where we're communicating with others through a prayer tree. So there's other things that we can do to continue those relationships and those connections that we have. Uh, really when we're looking at what's happening today and regardless of where we're at, because we're all, there's this saying that's been taking place through this whole ordeal, is that we're all in this together. And we're all in this together, but everyone is walking a different walk. Everyone is living a different life within their own homes of what they're having to overcome. And really, just making that call and reaching out to someone and letting that person know that you're there, that can do a whole lot for that individual, but for yourself as well, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about this time period is that it's really forcing us to be creative
Right.
with our resources, with our time. And so, one of the things that has really helped me is doing drive-bys.
Uh-huh.
So, drive-bys have been so much fun, being able to, um, drive by somebody's house and, have a sign or something for them. And it just, it really just does something to them, because they haven't seen people in such a long time. And, for someone to come to their house is really amazing. But, drive-bys has been really incredible. And also I love doing letters. So I love being a penmanship, and really being able to really just get in touch with people the old-fashioned way. Like when I used to do in high school, I had so many pen pals. So it's really allowed us to be creative with our time and our resources now being at home.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I can hear your little ones there in the background. How are they doing? How are they, doing through all this?
This has been very interesting. So I have 4 girls, and they are 8, 7, 4, and 2.
My goodness.
And my 2-year-old, unfortunately, she started school 2 weeks before everything shut down. So it really hasn't affected her much, because she's having a great time with, her sisters. But the other ones, they miss their friends. And, we have their friends are right here. Their friends are right here in our neighborhood, on our street, next door. So it's really hard for them right now. But one of the things that we've been doing is doing a lot of Zoom play dates. We've been doing play dates. We've been doing virtual, we've been doing drive-bys. We've been doing phone calls, so FaceTime with their friends. The drive-bys, of course, they're kids, so that doesn't always work because they want to get out and play. But that has really helped them. And then being able to have, video calls with their classmates, that has been helpful as well.
Yeah. So one of the things that you coach on is being able to handle both work and family, finding balance, or being able to work through that. And especially now, we it used to be 6 months ago, we would come home and have to cook dinner, or do everything that is needed as a mom and a wife. But now that's ongoing, right? I mean, I find myself, so I teach during the day, or I also do other types of work. But of course, I'm making breakfast, lunch, and dinner in between in between those Zoom calls, in between those classes. And the women, from what I've read and from what I've experienced myself, women are taking the brunt of all this, right? We're now working extra, even more hours now than before. What has been your experience with that, and speaking to other women and coaching other women with that?
I tell you, it has been incredible because everybody feels the same way. It has been a struggle. If we look at the statistics, Department of Labor 2 years ago put out that women are 47% of the workforce. That's right. Huge. That is huge. Yes. So you have 47% of employees in corporate America at home with their kids.
Right.
And there is, even though you try to escape and go into a space where you can work, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And you just want to pull your hair out because you're like, y'all, give me 5 minutes. But what I've learned is that this is reality. This is reality. And we can tell our kids to leave and go and be quiet. They're not going to do it, especially if you have a 2-year-old. They're not going to do it. But one of the things that I have learned along the way, and I have taught moms along the way, is making sure that we have our set priorities. You know what? Because I truly believe having the priorities and making yourself a priority is probably one of the best ways that you can create and master the balance. Because when you have set yourself a priority, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, that you're setting time to be with yourself, knowing who you are, you know, it's so important that you do that, because from that you're able to understand what type of balance you need. What is it that you need? What boundaries do you need? So that has been something that I've been teaching moms, and also something that I've, you know, done myself. But that has been really something that moms are struggling with. And a lot of them, I know one person, she had reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she was just like, I don't know what to do. You know, my kids are doing sorts of things. I think her kids are like 6 and 8, and she's trying to run a business at the same time. And then her husband is not home. He's an essential worker. So everything is on her. And, you know, it's just been a lot on her. And one of the things I told her, outside of the priorities, is we got to give ourselves some grace. We have to really give ourselves some grace. We have to really understand that this is a circumstance that there's no way we could have planned for this. There's no way we could have planned for a pandemic. But by giving yourself grace, by loving yourself enough to know that God is going to give you the strength to get through this. And then also, He doesn't give us more than what we can bear.
Right.
So He knows what we are capable of doing. He knows exactly what we are capable of doing. So that has been something that I've been really sharing with moms lately.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So yeah, well, thank you so much, Latika. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. And just to wrap it up of what we talked about, you know, our spirituality is really, really important during this time, right? In moments like this, that we hold on to that spirituality and that belief and our faith, right? We continue to build those relationships and connections, and in whatever creative ways we can to continue that, because self-isolation doesn't mean that we can't continue to build those relationships that we have that are so dear to us. So we, you know, those relationship doesn't, self-isolation doesn't mean we can't continue those relationships. It just has to be done differently. And then third, which we just spoke about, is, you know, making sure that you make yourself a priority through all this. It's important that we as moms, as wives, as individuals, that we give ourselves that priority and taking care of ourselves through this whole ordeal, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Those things are very, very important. And finally, give yourself grace, right? We have to give ourselves grace. And thank you. This is very, very informative. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk today. And I'm hoping that, you know, our conversation today can really help others just find a little bit of peace in all this. So.
Absolutely. I thank you so much, Cynthia. This has been a wonderful, despite the background noise. But you know, one thing I will say is that just having conversations, you know, with people, you know, and one of the things that I really have taken advantage of is networking, you know, during this time period.
Yes.
We don't have time. We don't have time for a lot of stuff. But I have found by sending connections to people on LinkedIn, um, and Facebook as well, I have been able to connect with some God-fearing women. And having those connections has helped me, and it's helped others.
Yes.
Um, I know for certain that when we, and the Bible tells us that when two or three are gathered in his name, he is there. He's going to answer. And the same is for us when we are able to gather virtually with others. God is in the midst. He's going to bless that. And he's going to give you the renewed strength that you need, the renewed peace that you need. He's going to give you what you need to be able to thrive in the storm that we're in right now. So it is hard, it is difficult, but having 2 to 3 people that you can connect with on a daily or weekly or however you need basis will really help you get through this storm that we are in.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I agree. That's really important.
Yeah.
We were made to be connected with each
Yes.
other,
Mm-hmm.
and this isolation can really uh, cause a burden on many. But
Yes.
it doesn't have to be that way. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be that way. Reach out to somebody,
Yes.
make a phone call, do a Zoom call. You and I met through LinkedIn.
Yes.
We didn't know each other prior to that.
Right.
So there are ways to do that. It just takes a little bit getting out of comfort zone. It is possible. So yeah.
It really is. And this is, we don't know why we're in this pandemic. We don't know why it's here now at this time in this year. But what I do know is that God is getting ready for something. He's getting ready for something. And in turn, he's telling us to get ready. And
Yes.
so, us as the church, the people, he's telling us that we need to be a little bit more creative in making sure that we can fellowship with each other, getting the word out to others. And then also, God may also be saying, hey, this is time for you to spend with your family. This is
Exactly.
time for you to get closer to me. This is
Right.
time for you to focus on your health. This is time for you to do X, Y, and Z. So, there is a blessing. This morning on my run, I was listening to Kirk Franklin's song, the the blessing in the storm. And basically the song says that even though you're in a storm, there is a blessing. And so each day we just have to thank God for the blessing of life. We may not be in good health, but we have life. We may not be able to see our family and friends, but we have family and friends. We may not be able to get out of our house, but we have a house. We
Definitely.
may not be able to go out for a ride or go to our favorite place, but we have a car. So there's a blessing in the storm that we are in. Even though we can't see it, we may not be able to feel it, but there is a blessing in the storm that we are in. And so, just us taking this time to recognize and reflect on that blessing will help us as well. Um, and just really do us good, really do our minds good, understanding that there's a blessing, there's good, there's
Right.
always good in the middle of bad.
Right. Right. Find the things to be grateful for.
Yes.
Right. The gratitude. And
Hmm.
I do find myself being grateful for the many blessings that are in this, like you said, in this storm. And keeping our focus on not the storm, right? We don't
Right.
want to focus on the storm. We want to focus and keep our eyes fixated on Jesus, that will help us through this. So
Right.
very, very good. Well, again, thank you again, Latika. I appreciate your time,
Thank
and
you.
give your little ones a hug. They sound really cute. Give them a hug for me.
Lord have mercy.
It sounds like they came in and spent some time with mama, and now they're back out wherever they were before.
Yes. I don't get it.
We're here.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's all part, this is part of all, it's real. This is life. This is, and we're going to work through it. And what a blessing to have you put in there. So it was great. Thank you. And that concludes the session today. And I will be sharing Latika's information at the bottom if anybody wants to reach out to her, any questions, or even your book. I can put a link to that, Latika, and you can add that on there, because I know I'm interested in getting it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.